Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Today I'm going to do a little something different for a book review. As you probably saw by the title, I'm reviewing The Art of War. I actually have three copies, as you can see here. My original copy, an illustrated copy, and a very small copy for putting in my rucksack or what have you. I also like taking this when I travel, just so I have a small copy, not to weigh me down. But I want to talk about these books in regard or what have you to gaming, especially role playing gaming, but also including, of course, any kind of tabletop gaming. Even when we play Shadows of Brimstone, some of the strategies and tactics and ideas that were written thousands of years ago or 1,000 years ago, well, it doesn't matter. Uh, all of these principles are of great use, not just to players of all the different games, but dungeon masters. Armed with any copy of this book, you'll be able to train yourself to think the way people did in actual war, not just war, but skirmishes and dungeon encounters and your bandits waylaying the party or whoever comes down the road. All of the ideas in here, beside the fact that this book is required reading for many types of education, not just military, but finance and things like that. These books are absolutely invaluable. I really like this version because it has, obviously illustrations, and who doesn't like, illustrations, especially when it comes to war and battles and combat and things like that. But it's got a lot of extra information about Sun Tzu and the time he lived. And because it was, more or less, a feudal society armed with, swords and bows and things like that are going to, be in all of our Dungeons and Dragons games, for example. But even rifles and even modern combat will benefit from the ideas in these books. If you don't have a copy, you could probably pick this version up for about $10. I think I might have paid more than $5 for this one, but this was a long time ago. And as a player or a dungeon master, any volume will help you out. There's so many times when I know that players don't want to get involved in the big wars because they don't know anything about it. Well, grab a copy of this. Even if you only get halfway through it, you'll be better armed than maybe your dungeon master. And of course, if you're a dungeon master, by all means, grab a copy of this if you don't already have it. No assumptions there. And if you do have a copy, give it another read, especially when, for me, a lot of my Dungeons and Dragon games and other games, Traveler and maybe not so much HBO, Call of Cthulhu or Chill, but any game where you're going to have any sort of combat on a larger scale. So many times, my dungeon master friends never want to engage those kinds of things. The big battles, especially in stories like Lord of the Rings, where there were several huge battles, they would have known a lot of this stuff on both sides. And as a dungeon master, it behooves you to really have some of these ideas ingrained into your arsenal of dungeon mastering skills. If you want to avoid it, I understand, but some of the best finales for a great story or a great game end with a huge battle at the end, ultimately deciding the fate of a nation, a kingdom, maybe even the world itself that you're running. It really puts a cap on and a great end to a great story. I know Lord of the Rings, trundled on many chapters after the big war at the end, but that's that's gonna happen. You're not gonna go, okay, the war's over, game's over, you guys won. You're gonna have that Star Wars, medal receiving ceremony at the end. You're gonna have the characters going home or going on to the next adventure or what have you, retiring. But being able to run that war, that battle, toward the end of a campaign or throughout the campaign, or in the campaign I'm running, there have been several large battles between hundreds of opponents against one another of varying races and monsters, and the humans fighting the undead, things like that. Even the lich who's commanding those undead, he's going to know this stuff. He's going to have studied other fictional sources. Just because he's a wizard doesn't mean he doesn't read a book on military tactics. And unless you're going to keep your game out of the battlefield, which I highly recommend you don't do that, surprise your players and know what's going to happen. How the formations are going to move, what weapons are going to bear on what other units. The whole idea of war should not be left out of your role-playing games because you feel inadequate or unprepared. This book right here is, not counting the index and bibliographies, and there are many appendices. Let's just say 200 pages. I've read 20 books in the last couple of months alone, just preparing, not just for these videos, but for some of the games I'm going to be running this spring and this summer. I'm going to be rereading this one for a specific campaign. I recommend you guys, pick up a copy or maybe go online and find it for free. God knows there's got to be, half a dozen different places to be able to read this, audiobook it, whatever it takes. This book, which will be the first in a series of books or videos I'm going to be calling, something like tactical reading for your gaming, what have yous. But I really recommend this book. I can't recommend it enough. I think that all of you guys out there that are watching, players, dungeon masters, what have you, will really, really learn a lot. Maybe more than from rereading the Player's Handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide again. Even more so than reading your favorite monster book. This will tell you how they did it when it was more than just man to man, one-on-one combat. Even for gladiator arena combats, which we talked about in the Arduin reviews, they would have known a bunch of this. There's so many things that you'll learn from this book. And there's actually a few surprises. And I believe even in this one, there's actually a few historical tellings of specific battles where the lesser army defeated the greater army. And I can't think of a better use of this book than to show the players that with the right strategy, with the right sneaky, underhanded tactics, you can in fact win that battle that you were, sure to lose otherwise. So with that all being said and done, I hope you guys will give this book a look-see and really, really take advantage of the information in this book. There's a reason why this book is so famous and so revered, because you can use this not just in your gaming life, folks, but believe it or not, there's some ideas in here that I personally have used in my regular day-to-day life for all kinds of things, from getting a job, the interview, to dealing with people that I'd rather not deal with, and turning it around, what could have been some sort of unpleasant experience, but turn it around to where some of those people are some of my best friends. So I hope you guys will give these books a chance. Come back Thursday for our craft video, Friday for our Arduin review. Until then, have a great day. Enjoy the weather because it's just getting better. Good night, everybody.